As someone who's adopted, been in foster care, knows something about adoption. So that's a couple of you. Today I'm actually here to talk about same-sex adopting and same-sex parenting and like the pros to it, and then like how society views it as like still not okay and still not something that we usually accept. So throughout my research, when I was going through like the internet and stuff and looking at like how same-sex parenting affects children and how like the health, emotional, physically, I found that same-sex parenting actually is just as like usual as normal sex parenting, and in like the research I was going through, same-sex parenting actually does benefit the children in a boost in their confidence, because same-sex parents allow their children to not abide by like gender roles. So like children are allowed to like dress the way they like, and they're allowed to you know, appear as they like. They get to decorate like their rooms the way they like. And so there was this really cool thing by Amanda Chantel on livescience.org, and she states in her paper, like her argument, that same-sex parents allowing their children to do as they abide in their gender roles actually like helps the household as well. So like, you know, when your parents are like, oh, Justin, like go take, like they'll tell my sister like, oh, can you go take out the trash? And my sister's like, I don't want to touch the trash, that's a boy's job, and stuff like that. So like with same-sex parenting, children don't usually get that, parents don't get that back from their children, because their children are raised in like the sense that like everyone can do everything, and you shouldn't like be restricted to certain things just because of a gender norm that society has created. So in the household, that helps the children also learn like, okay, like, you know, I can do what I'd like, and I can be as I please, because my parents allow me to be open about situations like that. And then another thing I found is that same-sex parents are actually helping out the amount of children in shelters and foster cares. By Nadia Kunang, she states on CNN that in her research she's found that about 65,000 children right now are living in same-sex parent households, and another 14,000 are kept within a foster home, like by same-sex parents. So not only like same-sex parenting is allowing children to be themselves and boost their confidence and like reduce their insecurities and stuff, they're also helping out like the society in a whole by like taking in these children that like feel unwanted or feel like welcomed in their old homes, or like feel that no one really cares about them, and they're taking them in and allowing them, you know, to get these benefits that they didn't usually get while being stuck in a foster system. Because I know my older sister was in a foster system before she was adopted, and she told me like it sucks because you don't really feel like it's a home just because everyone's like designated to do certain things, and it's not like you don't get a really sense of like care for the person. My sister said, being with the people she was with in the foster home, they kind of just delegate you to do things. They don't really like, oh, how was your day, like how are you doing? But in the research that Nadia found, that those parents that are taking those children in and fostering them cater to the children and their needs and like their necessities, and allow them to like really grow within the home, not just be placed in a home and have somewhere to stay. And then my last point that I found in my study was actually by Stephanie Papas, and she reported that since the parents feel a bit pressured by like society, that they're not as like ready to parent as normalized parents, that they feel pressured to do so much more and to do a lot better than normal parents, because they feel that society is waiting for them to slip up. So within that, I found that like parents, since they feel that like pressure by society and by like everyone around them, that they will try a lot harder to like help their kids with homework and help their kids like do better in school, and so they can show everyone that they're just as capable of parenting children as anyone else along in the world. And so with all of that being said, I hope you guys can take into consideration that same-sex parenting is just as beneficial as normalized parenting. Thank you.
Oh, that's why. I thought there was something screwy here.
This is not the evaluation form for this speech.
All right, Tuan, what did you think?
I think it's a good topic because in my country they don't have like same-sex parenting, so this is the first time I hear it. He know his topic really well. He has a good eye contact, and he made it clear on the first part of it. Overall, like I think it's nothing bad about the speech. I think it's a great speech.
Well, I think it needs to be developed a little bit more. I think you need to give us a bigger justification for why there is a need to make this argument. If there's criticism of same-sex parenting, if it is looked down on some way, if somebody's asserting a harm about it, I think that you need to tell us that those things are going on. You kind of take it as a given that that's going on. I did think at one point that it sounded like you were making an assumption that the same-sex parents were also dealing with children who have, same-sex identities or homosexual tendencies or transgendered issues or something like that, and I'm not sure that how often that is the case. We did get some information about same-sex parents, statistically how many of them there were and how many were operating in the foster care system. I thought that was good information to add there to suggest that there is something here substantial that we ought to be looking at. The foster care system gets maligned here, and I'm not saying that it's a good system. I don't know that much about it. I just do know that it's probably hard to make an inference about it based on a single case, and the single case happens to be your sister in this particular situation. So I don't know how representative or typical that is, and none of it applies to the same-sex issue that you were talking about. So I'm not sure that that criticism is adequately developed for the subject matter as you're going after it. I think you need a clearer structure in the presentation. Your delivery is okay, but sometimes the citation of information, you tell us there's a study or there's a paper that somebody wrote or there's some information, but you don't quote it directly. It's usually a paraphrase, and sometimes the paraphrase is a little abstract and unclear, and I think it needs to be a lot clearer than what you're presenting. Like I mentioned, the evaluation rubric that you gave me is not the one that is for this particular assignment, so there'll be a little bit of inconsistency here, but I'll plug them together so that hopefully you'll understand what's going on here when you get your grade. All right, thank you.